For the benefit of people who don't know what's going on here, can you just tell me why Wessex Archaeology was called in?
Basically, the redevelopment works here where they're lowering the bank profile to help with flood alleviation and free up the area for regeneration. We knew the amount they were dropping the ground by was going to impact and eventually remove a load of archaeology, mostly of 18th and 19th century industry and buildings along the quayside. So we've been called in to record this before it's destroyed.
We're talking about the workplaces and the homes of the ordinary people of Bath then. They're the people who actually help build the place and help keep it running.
Yes, indeed. So we're excavating around 50 buildings along the quayfront here. They're a mixture of lodging houses, public houses, factories, buildings associated with the quay itself, wharfingers' houses, and lots of small tenements backing off the main streets.
Now, I know you're up against it. I mean, this is rescue archaeology because the bank is being reshaped. Since we were last down here, what have you discovered?
Well, probably the most interesting thing we found is the remains of an 18th century parchment works. Now, what's quite interesting is that we seem to have the full process on site. We had a series of Bath stone-lined tanks on either side of the works. One of them was relatively clean, just backfilled with rubble. We think this was probably where the animal skins were brought in initially to be washed, get the grease and fat off them. And then on the opposite side of the building, we had a series of lime pits. These had a thick coating of lime on the inside of them, and they were backfilled with lots of lime. And this is where the animal skins would have been dipped in to de-hair them and soften them up prior to being rinsed again and then stretched to make parchment or further treated to make light leather. What we did find in the bottom of one of these was unfortunately the skeletons of two small cats that must have accidentally fallen into the lime pit and met a sorry end.
When we were last talking, you were hoping that when you got to this end, you just might find the remnants of a fortified wall. The maps appear to show heading towards the river at this point. Are you more confident at this point you might find that?
Well, we are now standing at the junction of the parish boundary between Walcott and St James, and we have a wall along this line. This isn't medieval, however, there may be a medieval wall underneath it. We haven't got deep enough yet. What we have found though is on the western side of it, all the floors and walls of later buildings all seem to be sagging into a large feature of some sort, which may well be a large ditch, but we'll see hopefully within the next week or so.
A large ditch that might just possibly be part of that fortification.
Yeah, I mean, if the ditch is big enough, if we're talking 5 metres plus, the chances are it's defensive and associated with this wall. But we should see. It should be if it's a defensive ditch, it should be pretty obvious.
You were also hoping to find the remains of the Bath House, the place where the ordinary working people of Bath came to wash in the morning before many of them, I suppose, took up their duties in the grand houses on the hill. Has that come to light yet?
We've uncovered a few bits around the edge, but we haven't actually stripped that area fully yet. What we have found a bit further to the west of that is the end of Kingsmead Terrace, which is a line of large Georgian houses that were demolished in the mid or late 20th century. These are the houses that a lot of the people running the factories on the rest of the site would have actually lived. So you've got both ends of the social spectrum, unskilled labourers living in lodging houses at one end and the factory owners at the other.
You also talked about this being on the edge of a river which has been notorious over the centuries for flooding, so many of these properties would have been inundated. There's some evidence of people actually building up the floors, isn't there, because of previous floods?
Yeah, so some of the buildings we've excavated along the new quay frontage, it appears that when they were originally built they had suspended wooden floors, but these didn't last very long, probably because the place got flooded so regularly. The damp would have caused them to rot. The void under the floor, which is up to a metre deep in places, then appears to have been infilled with rubbish to raise the floors up, and then they were then refloored with pennant flooring. But we've been finding interesting and nicely datable artefacts from the floors under these, lots of pottery and clay pipes, that kind of thing.
It's rescue archaeology, Cai, as we've mentioned before, so there's a great deal of pressure on you guys. The weather so far not too bad?
The weather's been great, quite warm, which is nothing to complain about in archaeology, because half the time we're working in the middle of winter. But yes, hopefully we'll get it all finished before the weather closes in.
And the great thing is, although this is being swept away, you guys are recording it.
Yes, we've made a full drawn, surveyed and photographic record of everything we found here. Once we've had time to digest what we've got and interpret it, we will be able to disseminate this to the public.